I just want to talk to you about regional planning. And so what I want to tell you is that, yes, it's important to think about what goes on here in Lynn and down even to the neighborhood level. And then the neighborhood, affects the rest of the city. But Lynn affects the rest of the region. So what Lynn does locally, the decisions that Lynn makes locally, affects the rest of the region. Just like Revere, your neighbor, what they decide is going to affect the rest of the region. And so it's just, regional planning is just getting people together to make sure that they are trying to advance these 7 principles together. And I think, Will, what you were saying before, instead of working individually, let's work together. So what regional planning is really taking cities and towns to consider planning past their borders. So actually, I'm not from Lynn. I'm not familiar with Lynn. Is there a roadway that goes through Lynn that passes and goes into another city and town? Which one? The Lynnway. Okay. So what are some cities and towns that the Lynnway goes through? Saugus, Revere, Swampscott, Salem, Peabody. So what would happen if each city and town individually worked on their little piece? Swampscott, they have a very nicely paved piece of Linfield. And then in the next town, they have a crumbling one. And then the next town, they have lots of stores. And then another one, they just have housing. It doesn't flow. A road is supposed to flow. And so that's just the whole thing, regional planning. It's supposed to have people plan just beyond their cities and towns and have more of a flow, consider your neighbors, and consider how your little piece affects the bigger picture. Yeah, Tony.
So are you a state agency or a nonprofit?
So there are 13 planning agencies in Massachusetts, and ours is Metropolitan Boston, and we get funded by the state. We also get funded by the cities and towns. They give us a little portion so we can help with the regional planning. We also get federal funds, and we apply for grants. So
you're like EDIC, so.
Yes, and we have no power. We have no say in terms of you have to do this. But we can provide things like data, and we can work with cities and towns on their small piece and help them connect it to the bigger piece. Yeah.
So I think you probably won't get regional planning unless you get regional social movements, like what Renee was saying. So
we have a jewel in this organization, and it is a hidden jewel if we do not avail ourselves of that knowledge. And that crosses all those borders. So we don't have to be defined by our borders. We just Lynn. We're not. And we've always considered ourselves, as Boston considers itself greater, we consider greater, and we have 5 communities that surround us, but we really need to think of it in terms of region. And if we think of it of region, then Lynn as a gateway to the North Shore can be also a jewel that reflects the hidden jewel, and we'd be able to lift up everybody instead of just some higher standard of living.
All right. Thank you. Great. So that's pretty much all I have for this portion. I just wanted to go over what is sustainable and what is equitable development. So we pretty much lined those up, and I wanted to just try to explain regional planning a little bit. Now there is a project that we're working on that I want to let you know. It's in downtown Lynn. It's with Jim's office, Economic Development, or the EDIC. We're going to be having a meeting in December. Public meeting, and I have your information, so I'll invite you all, and you can invite your neighbors. But what it is helping the city put together a plan with the input of community members on what you want downtown to be like, especially for the businesses, especially for the development economically of downtown Lynn. So that's all I'll say about that. I'll give you information, and if you want, I can talk to you after this to answer any questions. But I appreciate you listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you.